What should private equity firms think about as their portfolio companies become stressed or distressed?
Well, I think there are a number of things they should think about. First thing to understand is that as they become stressed and distressed, heightened scrutiny will always follow. And so there are probably 5 or 6 items in the trajectory of a private equity investment that can get scrutiny. Those 5 or 6 span a range of things like management fees, dividend payments, LBO structures, domination of the management by the portfolio parent, the sponsor, failure to maintain corporate formalities, and shareholder loans. Those kinds of transactions are the ones that'll get heightened scrutiny. So it should come as no surprise that the remedies to try to mitigate risk associated with those kinds of activities are to follow good corporate practices and good corporate governance, and to stay in compliance, to keep separate boards. You can have overlapping members, but you need separation. You need regular board meetings. You need independent directors. And you need to enter into commercial management service agreements. Those sorts of things will keep you in the right place as scrutiny heightens during a stressed and distressed period.
And what techniques can these private equity firms use to help manage the liabilities of their portfolio companies' balance sheets?
So the techniques are a wide range of techniques. They range from paying particular attention to negotiating forbearance arrangements with lender groups so that milestones in those forbearances don't cause defaults and therefore accelerate a result and an elimination of value that truly might be there due to a liquidity crisis. There are other techniques that sponsors can employ, which include transactions like exchange offers, where unsecured debt can be exchanged for secured debt that's more safe in the structure, and in that process reduce leverage. There's debt buybacks, so we see sponsors trying to buy back debt, which they can typically get at less than par, and take leverage off of their investment, and by doing that potentially mitigate any litigation risks they have because they're removing capital and creditors from the system. Separate counsel and advisors for the portfolio company is also a good idea as a good governance matter in a stressed and distressed situation. And I think just staying involved with the portfolio company and paying attention and making decisions based upon fiduciary duties look through the lens, or seen through the lens of the portfolio company rather than the sponsor's interests.
And how can private equity firms proactively seek out new opportunities in companies they're not already involved with?
So there's really 2 kinds of private equity firms in our experience. One kind has a mandate to actually be active in stress and distress situations, and others don't, and simply when they're not invested in a company already and it is only a company that they might want to get involved with and becomes distressed, if they don't have a mandate for it, it can be tough for them to become involved. But on the whole, what private equity firms need to do is they need to become much more familiar with the transactions that occur in stressed and distressed situations. So they need to learn how easily you can transact under Section 363 of the Bankruptcy Code and conduct an M&A transaction. And then from there, they can become more educated about what it would take to transact under a plan and buy a company that way in a Chapter 11. And then there are even more complicated transactions that can involve accessing tax attributes such as NOLs, which in certain transactions can be incredibly valuable to the acquirer. And while they're complicated to execute, right, they're probably no more complicated, just different from the transactions that they typically traffic in. And so I think it's simply a function of becoming educated about the range of possibilities to invest in and acquire assets and companies that are stressed and distressed. I think a lot of folks are missing opportunities because they're not focused on that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.